We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
It was tough.
Good morning, America. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. You have found it, the one place where liberty speaks with a megaphone while the deep state squirms like cucarachas under the kitchen light. This is Wake Up America, baby. We got a barn burner of a show for you today. I know some of you guys are already clutching your coffee mugs. Got my little Frenchy butt coffee mug. You're clutching it right now, and you're like, what's Austin going to say today, right? And maybe you've got a pineapple sitting on the table there. Why the pineapple? Because it's prickly on the outside, sweet on the inside, and it's wearing a crown, just like this show. A little sweet, a little sharp, and a reminder who's still king in this country, we the people. Tasty. You got your founding flavors? All right, today we got some stories that are going to make your hair stand on end. Senator Chuck Grassley dropped a bombshell in the Senate Judiciary Committee, exposing Arctic frost, the FBI's secret dragnet that wasn't just about Trump, it was about all of us. 92 Republican groups, including Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, investigated like criminals by the partisan hacks at the DOJ. If you thought that the Obama IRS targeting Tea Party groups was bad, this is IRS 2.0 with guns, badges, and subpoenas. That's our A1 segment. Thank you to Dad Bod Baboon. Says, Happy Constitution Day. I've got my copy over here on the other side of the table. I could grab it, but I don't want to reach. LW78 hanging out with us. And thank you, by the way, Dad Bod, we appreciate that. Let's put the $5 up on the total. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, God.
Money-wise. We're going to talk about that in the A1 segment, the Chuck Grassley hearing. I've got a bunch of clips. It doesn't stop there, though. We're going to be diving into the chilling confessions of Charlie Kirk's murderer, Tyler Robinson, texting his trans partner right after the murder, admitting flat out, I'm sorry. And the media, some of them had the gall to call these texts touching. That was our first clip that we played in the show. That's the A2 segment. And we're going to contrast it with the circus that's happening in New York City, where Luigi Mangione's fans are literally cosplaying Mario Brothers while cheering a terrorist CEO killer. Pretty sick stuff. And then we bring in the cavalry at 8 a.m. Central Time here at A3. My friend Remso Martinez is going to join us to break down Kash Patel's testimony and what the Arctic frost files really tell us about the permanent government. If you want receipts, Remso's got him. That's our A3 segment, but you don't care what I name my segments. I'm thinking about renaming them. At A4, we're going to be rejoined by Sara Higdon. She'll be joining us this morning at 8:30 this morning. That one's going to be a spicy one. She's a post-op trans activist who was befriended by Charlie Kirk himself. She's going to tell us about Charlie the man, her thoughts on the shooter's trans partner, and what this assassination means for America. You don't want to miss her courage and clarity. This show is stinking relevant. It's so stinking relevant, it's not even funny. This is not just another podcast. What happens on the Wake Up America show is what you will see on other shows later this afternoon and the legacy media a day, 2 or 3 days later, right? So that's why you watch this show. You tune in the morning, like my brother, Justin Peterson, hanging out there in the chat. Hey, brother. And because, of course, this show, we never stop swinging, although our pineapples are firmly, oh, man, some of these pineapples are actually upside down, actually, on my shirt. Damn it. I need to redesign this shirt. Because we never stop swinging, but not that way. For those of you who push us past the $100 support mark this morning, Breakfast Theater comes alive. To be or not to be. Today's guest will be the one and only Joe Biden. That's right. He's here to respond to the report from the Wall Street Journal that the former president is broke. They had to get him. He wanted to go to Malibu for his vacation this year, but he had to end up staying at a Malibu trailer park. He's broke, he's bitter, and he's ready to tell us why nobody wants to hire him. He'll be joining us this morning. Pineapple's optional. So buckle up, pour another cup, sip it up, grab your sippy cup. Light up the Rumble chat, hit the share button. Let's go to war with the deep state because this is Wake Up America. We don't whisper liberty. We shout it over here. Freedom!
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is my
I follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time
apart.
to address
There should be a
your
unifying-
falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this country.
to not take
It is my
responsibility
time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making
time
a
is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of New
we've
Jersey
come
tell me
since
what my
you
time is.
Senator-
You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over?
You may be the charge of the
I'm not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman.
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Senator
be.
Booker, I announced at the beginning.
Consider the FBI's historic track records. They're more powerful than the Senate, in my view. I would be afraid of the FBI if I were a senator. Folks, I've been in politics a long time. I've seen a lot of scandals, but this right here, what Senator Chuck Grassley exposed this week, is a smoking gun we knew was always there. The FBI's Arctic Frost operation. It wasn't just about Donald Trump. It was about you. It was about me. It was about 92 different Republican groups targeted like they were mob bosses. So let me put this plainly for you. Arctic Frost was Obama's IRS Tea Party scandal on steroids. Do you remember this? Lois Lerner at the IRS targeting Tea Party conservative nonprofits because they dared to have the word patriot or Tea Party in their name. We thought that was the pinnacle of weaponization of the federal government against its enemies, which includes conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, anarcho-capitalists, and others. It turns out that was actually just the warm-up act.
Central American gangs like MS-13. Now, well, it's well understood that your predecessor left you an FBI infected with politics. I'm going to provide examples of that today, including making public new whistleblower records. At your nomination hearing, I made public records that whistleblowers provide me about Arctic Frost. Arctic Frost was the FBI case opened and approved by antitrust Trump FBI agent Thibault. Arctic Frost then became Jack Smith's Electra case against then citizen Trump and now President Trump. These new records show that Arctic Frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. The case was expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the group that Ray FBI sought to place under political investigation included the Republican National Committee, Republican Attorney General's Association, and various Trump political groups. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic Frost. On that political list was one of Charlie Kirk's groups, Turning Point USA. In other words, Arctic Frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate.
Yeah, and everything that we expected that the federal government was doing to try and block us. So what the left does is they use the federal government in two ways. One, to weaponize it against their political enemies in the United States. And two, they use it to fund their nonprofits, their NGOs, to fund their lavish lifestyles and to fund their leftist research projects at academia, and to fund very likely protests that end up protesting against the citizens of the United States, and some of those which may or may not be violent. Fiery, but mostly peaceful. So they steal our money on one hand to fund their NGOs, and then on the other hand, they use the FBI, they use the government's enforcement arms to crack down on groups which are a threat to the life of the federal government, which are a threat to the state itself, which are, of course, people like you, people like me, people who are to anywhere to the right of Joseph Stalin. Here comes Arctic Frost. Kicked off in April of 2022. This was under Christopher Wray's FBI, and then it was handed to Jack Smith. This is the same special counsel who tried to nail Trump on classified documents and the January 6th incident. They didn't stop with Trump. They moved on. They cast a dragnet over nearly 100 groups tied to Republicans, fundraising committees, youth organizations, individual lawyers like Jeffrey Clark, and yes, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's group. And doesn't it make your blood boil hearing this to know that while the FBI was secretly treating Turning Point USA like it was a terror cell, Charlie was out there organizing young people, speaking on campuses, building a movement, and then just last week, he's assassinated, shot dead at Utah Valley University. The government had him in their files as a part of Arctic Frost. And then the media has the gall to call the killer's text messages touching. Right? This is political targeting. It's been going on for a long time. It's endemic to our government. It's a feature. It's not a bug. It's the same playbook that the left keeps running over and over again. The left can't win the argument, so they try to criminalize the opposition. And if they can't criminalize the opposition, then they will assassinate the opposition. They did this with the Tea Party. They did it with Trump. They tried to assassinate Trump. And now we know that they did it with Charlie Kirk. If you're listening to me right now, if you've ever donated to a conservative cause, if you've ever gone to a rally, if you ever shared a meme that hurt the left's feelings, congratulations. You've probably been in the FBI's crosshairs too. My wife, Stephanie, got caught up. This was back during the COVID-19 crisis, but my wife shared a post that supported a Republican candidate for Senate in Maine. The current senator of Maine, Angus King, put my wife's name on a list, turned it over to the government, had the government attempt to contact Twitter and to try to have my wife banned from social media. A literal violation of Stephanie's First Amendment rights for supporting a candidate that opposed Angus King, called her an online troll, said that she needed to be banned. Thankfully, Twitter never acted on that. But this is the kind of stuff that goes on. Sweet Steffi, never harmed a fly. These are the enemies of the federal government. These are the people that they put on lists. These are the people that Arctic Frost was taking aim at here. So Arctic Frost, it didn't result in any trials. They didn't get anything on anyone. Jack Smith's case is all collapsed before the 2024 election, which just goes to show you how partisan the nature of this thing was. It was all a fishing expedition, a witch hunt, but the damage was done. They drained resources. They scared off their donors. They smeared reputations. And they set a precedent that if you oppose the regime will use every tool of federal law enforcement against you. And think about the irony here, right? They claim that they were investigating false election fraud claims and fake electors, but they were themselves the ones who were undermining small d democracy by turning our Justice Department into the Democrat Party's enforcement arm. Right? And Senator Grassley was right. This wasn't about justice. This was about partisanship. Now, I want you to picture something with me, guys. Close your eyes. Picture a giant net being dragged through the water, catching every fish in its path. That's what Arctic frost is doing. It trumps PACs. Rudy Giuliani, probably one of them. Like, there's probably not been many bigger lawfare victims of lawfare in the United States than Rudy Giuliani. Trump would be number one. Rudy Giuliani is probably number two. Turning Point USA, grassroots donors, all of them hauled in like tuna, right? While the real sharks, the Hillary Clintons, the Hunter Bidens, they swim free. They get off scot-free. We live in an America where an FBI dragnet is thrown over conservatives in a partisan manner, where Charlie Kirk is assassinated while his organization is under federal suspicion. The left cheers it on, and they call us a threat to democracy. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of this shit. This is our country. And quite frankly, I think it's time for us to have a change in this nation.
Move on to my, you've been asked some questions about changes to your hiring standard, and including college degrees and possibly the age. But, one question I had is, that you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy and put him in handcuffs, you better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of...
I see these videos all the time of these cops in the UK, these female cops, and they just get blasted by these Muslim migrants. These keep video after video coming out, and there's these female cops, and then the female cop will sit there, and they will just be... The blood is running down their noses, like screaming, "Oh, crikey, didn't expect it to happen to me. Oh, God, wish I could do a pull-up." If you could do a pull-up. I think Justin over in the chat knows what's up when he says, wait, there are physiological differences between men and women. Guess Hirano knows what a woman is. Oops. Oh. Listen, if the FBI can do this to the most powerful people on the planet, what makes you think that you're safe? If Donald Trump, the former president at the time when they were doing this, if he wasn't safe, if Charlie Kirk, an innocent activist, never harmed a fly, sweetest guy you could ever imagine, if guys like that, if guys like this are on the list and can be harmed by the federal government, how safe do you think people like we are over at the For Liberty Network?
Wait, Christian, by any chance?
Very, very much so.
Like, why is that exactly?
Jesus saved my life. I'm a sinner, gave my life to Christ, most important decision I ever made.
So you believe the Bible is real?
Yes, I believe the Bible is true and real. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I could give you the technical answer. There's never been an archaeological discovery that has contradicted the truth of the Bible. And then, of course, the wisdom. There's not a truth of the Bible that if you apply to your life does not improve dramatically. And then finally, we have the most accurate and transparent, historically robust account that one can have of the most important figure ever to live in the history of the world, Jesus of Nazareth. And the resurrection is the pinpoint of my belief that Jesus did rise from the grave so that we may live.
What makes Christian mythology real?
So that's not mythology, but that is theology. If Genesis 1:1 and the resurrection is true, anything in the Bible is possible. You're looking at the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle is creation. And then the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. And I say, how do you know that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, show me another historical piece of a story where so many people willingly died a brutal death for a lie. Every single person around him had everything to lose, and yet they went to the absolute depth, from Paul to Peter to the half-brother of James, saying that Jesus is Lord, Jesus rose from the dead. Not to mention, if you were going to fake a story, you would not use female witnesses in the ancient world. In the scriptures, it said that the women were the first one to see Jesus Christ. If you're trying to fake a story, you would never do that.
That's why they hated him. Truly. He had convictions that they could never, ever understand. People like this could never, ever understand. This woman
I do, but
defacing the Charlie Kirk Memorial.
Definitely not the morals I support or the religion I support. Just so you guys know, I'm fully religious too. We know. I do, but Charlie Kirk is definitely not the morals I support or the religion I support, where you're just taught to love your neighbor, not hate your neighbor. Respect. Yeah, love your neighbor. So okay, if you disagree, if you love your neighbor, so this is loving your neighbor. I'm not going to love a man who doesn't even. You don't have to. You're not loving your neighbor. You're not loving your neighbor.
This is not your job.
You're right. I'm not judging. It is not my right to judge, but it is also not your right to judge either. Nope, we're here protecting somebody. We're not here judging. And we're not the ones. If we were judging, we would be taking our paint can and dumping it on you, but we're not. Because someone has to pay. I pay all the time. It will, hopefully. If not, it's a price I gotta pay. Yeah, I am sorry. I did not mean to step on any of the flags. I will admit that. I am sorry. I don't think I did step on those. I only came over here. Yeah, the paint covering flags.
So kind, so tolerant. So the story matters. This Arctic frost story matters, not just because of what it reveals about the past, right? But because what it tells us about our future. If the deep state gets away with Arctic frost, the same way that they got away with the IRS targeting, right? If there's going to be another one, it's just a matter of time. They're just going to give it, Operation Frozen Liberty, Operation Cold Front, whatever. They'll just keep recycling this playbook until we finally shut them down. But here's the good news. The good news is that the exposure is happening. Chuck Grassley pulled back the curtain, right? We can see it. We can call it out, right? And we have to demand that the Republicans in power have more than just hearings, more than sound bites, not just defunding, right? We have to have some prosecutions. There have to be firings. There have to be perp walks. No more just patting these people on the head. I don't understand why it is that the left can blatantly commit crimes. People like Luigi Mangione can commit political assassinations, and then he gets off with a second-degree murder charge. It doesn't make sense why every time Republicans get in power, they make all these promises and threats about convicting, convicting and prosecuting the people who are committing crimes in the government, and that they never let them go. I think Trump was wrong in his first term to just say, "Oh, we're going to put Hillary in jail. We're going to put Hillary in jail." And then as soon as he gets elected, he just let her off the hook. Frankly, I thought that was a mistake. He should have gone through with it if he believed it, but maybe he didn't.
Talking about a love-torn child, a kid. This is probably his first.
I'm banned. I'm blocked on Twitter from Patel Williams, by the way.
Real relationship, and somebody was disparaging the person that he loved. He sat on that building for 30 minutes before he took the shot. Why did he wait until the first word trans came up? Then he took the shot.
You think he heard it? He could hear it?
I think he could hear it. I think he also, I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally.
Guys, the evidence here is overwhelming. He said, Charlie Kirk, I can't stand this hate anymore. I'm going to take him out. The testimony from him and the statements of his family, he had become more left-wing. He etched the statements that are made by the left about Republicans and conservatives and Charlie Kirk fascist on the bullet casings.
He made a joke about it in his last text.
Well, it doesn't sound like a joke to me because someone's dead and about to be buried. Well, so it doesn't sound like a joke to me. So I'm just telling you, there was an effort all weekend long on the left to try to make this guy sound like he was a conservative. That failed. that was passed around all over the weekend. That has now failed. The evidence has now come out. He was motivated by hate. He was motivated by left-wing radicalism. He got mixed up with some trans ideology in his life. We'll learn more about that, I'm sure, when more evidence and testimony comes out. We are looking around the edges of this for something other than what's staring us in the face. Left-wing radicalism got this kid. He went up to a roof and he murdered our friend, and that's what happened.
There we go. That's Scott Jennings. The only reason to watch CNN. Vivek Ramaswamy posted 11 hours ago. He says, we're seeing this trend on the ground in Ohio, disaffected ex-Democrats fleeing their party in droves. He said, we welcome the newcomers to our base who embrace decency and common sense, even if we don't agree on every last thing. Good for you. We're following these stories all across the country. As a matter of fact, my brother Justin Peterson over there in the chat, registered Republican last week. New York Post reporting disgusted ex-Democrats registering Republican after Charlie Kirk murder evil is walking among us. Republican Party seeing a Charlie Kirk effect with moderate Democrats and independents switching party affiliation at breakneck speed. You love to see it. You love to see it. Freshly emancipated former Dems told the New York Post they were horrified by the assassination of the 31-year-old podcaster last week. Please don't call Charlie Kirk a podcast. It's a little more than that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Shalfer Zepeda, a 31-year-old avocado farmer from California, was among them. I'm switching parties to protest. I understand that the right also has certain character flaws, but it doesn't culminate in sympathy for political violence, he told the Post. Good for you, bud. Attempted assassination of presidential candidates, public executions of healthcare CEOs, and political influencers seems to be in line with what leftists want, he said. After all, in revolutionary socialist doctrine, political violence is necessary and justified, which is why we see so many people trying to intellectualize these assassinations in the first place. I just simply cannot align with the direction things are going for. Amen. Quest Fanning says, back in the day, Montel had an episode where he invited Holocaust deniers on and had a real conversation. You wouldn't see him do that today. No, Montel Williams has Trump derangement syndrome like so many people out there. We got into it over gun control back when I was running for Senate in 2018, and he and Alyssa Milano were both going at it with me. And Alyssa Milano, my childhood crush, damn it, Angela. They both blocked me. Christopher Elton, restaurant manager from Bucks County, PA, told the Post that Kirk's death definitely encouraged him to register as a Republican last week. He says there's more peace on the right compared to the left, and I'm almost embarrassed for voting left in my life. God bless him. Thank you, Joni Rankin. She says, tides are turning. We voted for transparency. Nice. Thank you, guys. We've raised $12 out of the $75 and $100 bonus content goals today. I was always more of a policy voter than party affiliated, Elton said. I slowly moved towards faith and religion and Jesus and learned a lot through Charlie Kirk. He wasn't argumentative. He brought you facts. Since Charlie was killed, we've seen about 600 new Republican voters a day, Florida GOP chair told the Post. We usually average about 200 a day. 600 is a much bigger number. It's a big deal. Fantastic. It's one thing to be a no party affiliation voter when it seemed like everyone was getting along, but now we're under attack, Powers said, adding that many of his own friends went from undeclared to Republican in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's murder. Pennsylvania, crucial swing state, saw a similar surge after Charlie Kirk's killing. Republican voter registration doubled that week compared to previous averages. PA clocked 2,148 new GOPers this week, ending the week September 13, compared to 1,000 the week before. Democrats gained a measly 400 or so voters for each of those weeks. Way to go, dudes. Justin says, like me. Yes, like you, Justin. You're a news story. Turning Point USA experiencing a similar surge. The conservative campus youth organization founded by Kirk, they saw a big jump amounting to more than 15 times the organization's existing size. They were flooded with 32,000 new inquiries to start chapters in the 48 hours after the murder. They had 2,100 chapters before Kirk's death. Yes. God bless America. 32,000 new inquiries. They have 2,100 chapters. That is how political assassinations can backfire. That is how things like this will blow up in your face. You see, these people, they think that what they're doing is going to further their cause. Luigi Mangione, they think that what they're going to do is further their cause, but what they actually do is they end up undermining it more than any of their enemies ever could.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift.
Yeah, so remember when they were saying that he was a conservative? Yes, that narrative fell apart pretty damn quick. But political violence on the left. A lot of people are talking about this streamer, Destiny, as someone who foments violent leftist terrorism on the left. But where would they ever get an idea like that? Beware, there's going to be some bad language.
Hello?
Oh, there we are. We have an audible connection now. Can you hear me?
Oh, my shit's working. What's up?
Yeah. So, you made a tweet, and I'm feeling certain kind of way about it. Okay. I don't, and you can call me soy all you like, right? But just because the other side, like Trump, jokes about Pelosi's husband getting hammered by a guy with a hammer and things, just because that side engages in that kind of behavior and that kind of rhetoric and that kind of we can joke about the bad things that happen to them, I don't think that makes it okay for us to turn around and do the same. And in fact, I think that's one of the reasons we are at this point that we are in this country.
No, I reject that. No, that needs to stop. The whole idea that the reason why we're here is because liberals and the left just haven't cucked out enough. The reason why we're here, the reason why we don't have our Supreme Court justice, the reason why Trump has to get criminal immunity to survive his court case is because the left just isn't kind enough. Nah, I'm over it. I'm super over it. My only regret is that the guy didn't spend more time. Yes, that's exactly what you're saying.
That is not what I'm saying.
Hold on. You're saying we're here right now because the left is turning the temperature too much. No, we're here right now because Trump is fucking insane, because he has support from 90% of the conservatives in the Republican Party who are entirely
How about your parents? If they get their brains blown out at a rally, would you have the same attitude? They are democracy-hating insurrectionists after all. One, you're permaban for asking a stupid question, because the obvious answer two is, listen, they're adults. They make their own fucking decisions. If you want to support an insurrectionist president, then whatever comes of that, that's your consequences. Again, it's not a fucking joke. My mom is an immigrant to the United States of America. She was 5 years old. Her parents worked really hard to get her here. She served for 20 years in the Air Force, along with my dad. They know exactly what they're doing. They should know exactly what they're supporting. It was my mom that, ranted at me for over a decade about how evil the USSR and Putin and all the Chi-Coms and all that shit. So whatever, if they go to a rally and they whatever the fuck, it's less end of life cost for me to deal with. It's on them. That's their decision. You think I'm gonna fucking lose sleep over that? No. We all have our own paths to walk in life.
Wow, that's his own mother's. So yeah, so she went to a rally and she got her brains blown out. This is, that's less end-of-life costs for me to worry about. Peters JJ77 says he literally said Charlie Kirk would be alive if Trump wasn't elected. How the hell is that not terrorism? I Given a Shit's one of our biggest fans and supporters says he's so crazy he wants me to slap the shit out of him. Careful, like. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Please do click the like button. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. The show's schedule is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. 5 days a week, a 2-hour live show. That's us, the Wake Up America show. We are a whole network here where we have 4 shows on our network. And if you haven't checked it out, join the Discord server, forlibertynetwork.com. Check out some of our other shows on the network as well. And if you guys ever want to reach out to us or contact us, you can do so by texting us at that phone number that you see at the bottom of the screen. And if you're listening to the audio version later, send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. And you can send us questions, anything that you like that you need for the For Liberty Network. If you're having a problem with the shop, for example, you can text us there about your order as well. Spit on people.
Fuck that nigga. You're gonna get expelled, dude.
There we go. That's the tolerant left for you. Charlie Kirk was a racist because he said Joy Reid only got into Harvard because of affirmative action, Joy Reid says.
Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action. Well,
Charlie Kirk is a racist for repeating what she said herself. Charlie Kirk is a racist because you said you only got into Harvard because of affirmative action. She also said in 2023 that she only got into because of affirmative action. God, I just love this kind of stuff because it just proves the righteousness of our cause, does it not? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God, hold on. Yeah. Got to work on the timing of these clips.
Stating there is no incriminating client list. Why was this July 7th memorandum unsigned?
Would you prefer I've used AutoPen?
Why was it unsigned?
The memorandum had the insignia of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And
my God.
Stating there is no...
Kash seemed to be redeeming himself during this meeting here. Key text message exchange between Tyler Robinson, the accused, Charlie Kirk assassin, and his roommate and romantic partner per the prosecutors here. A lot of people are looking at these text messages saying that something doesn't add up. It seems fishy. I'm certainly right now I'm in the I'm open to all ideas until I'm noting that I'm open to ideas that correspond with some kind of evidence or facts, not necessarily just supposition. I'll listen to supposition, but then I'll ask if there are facts that support those suppositions. And if there aren't, then I'll tend to move on. But reading the text messages Robinson has sent between him and his boyfriend, girlfriend, what do we call them? I'm still okay, my love, but am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. The trans roommate says, you weren't the one who did it, right? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I am. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Robinson, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle, if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints I had to leave in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have had to abandon it and hope they didn't find prints. How the F will I explain things to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The effing messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulges, ooh woo, on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to leave it. This really effing sucks. What a joke. You should have done this text reading one of your VTuber characters' gay voices. Ooh, woo. Thank you very much, guys. If you really want to see some theater, though, we have breakfast theater on the table for you today. Fresh, hearty helping of breakfast theater available if we hit the unlock bonus content unlock. We're at $12 raised towards the $75 and $100 goals. We're going to have Remso Martinez and we're going to have Sara Higdon on the Wake Up America show today in the second hour, which is coming up soon in 15 minutes. But between now and then, I'm sure you guys would love to see the mini documentary that we have. So if we hit the $75 bonus goal raised on the show, that will unlock the first phase of our bonus content. Here's what I recommend that you guys do, that you head over to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com or forlibertyshop.com and check out some of our latest product drops. You can click on the thing at the very top. You can see some of our latest and greatest of our products over in the shop. Dugard Chicago Bears style sweatshirts available. We Are Charlie memorial tee. We also have Orgullosa Pina, Proud Pineapple hoodies as well. Spooky Season Proud Pineapples, which Joni Rankin got yesterday. We Are Charlie Kirk. Atomize the Intifada. Viva El Charlie, which I think is very fun and funny. And a lot of people really appreciate the freedom flag that a lot of people have been buying this one. So any of the Charlie merchandise that we sell, the profits of that are going to go to Turning Point USA. So not only will you get to give money to unlock the bonus content today, but if you buy any of our Charlie Kirk merchandise in our shop, in the Liberty Shop, then you guys will be making a donation to Turning Point USA as well. So let's do it. Head over to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com, where we joke that it's a grift, but we actually use the money for good causes. We will donate. I've already made an initial donation to Turning Point USA. And as the funds come in from the sales of the other merchandise that we've had from Charlie Kirk, we'll deliver that to Turning Point USA in Charlie Kirk's memory, which you can do. So check it out and help to unlock that bonus content, guys. And we will be very grateful and glad, and you'll support the show because at a minimum, we get your contact information. So, the tolerant left.
At some point, I'm going to have grandchildren, and they are going to ask me, Granddad, Grandpap, what did you do when the bad men come? And what am I going to say to those kids, right? What am I going to say to my future grandkids about what I did in this moment? The answer can't be nothing. What anybody who is listening to me is doing right now is what you would have done at all of those great and evil points in history. What you're doing right now is what you would have done during Jim Crow. What you're doing right now is what you would have done during Pinochet or Hitler or Stalin or any of the other bad guys in history. What you're doing right now is what you would have done then. So who do you want to be? At some point.
It's just so cringe. So cringe. Pretty sure, though, that this clip wins the award for most cringe. Classic love story. Boy meets confused boy in a dress, falls in love, brutally murders a stranger in front of his wife and kids. Tale as old as time.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate, who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
It was tough.
Good God.
We have seen an...
Thank you to Cecilia. She says this is how Charlie Kirk's kids' origin stories to become superheroes. Amen. Reporter dude, he's not going to date the soft side of an assassin, says Joni Rankin. Thank you to Cecilia. We're at now $17 raised towards the $75 and $100 bonus goal. That's pretty good, guys. If we, the bonus content today is a little bit longer, so we don't really have it unless we get like a purchase or something in the next few minutes. We probably wouldn't have time to play it because it's a little longer than usual before Remso comes on. So if we unlock the bonus content in the next few minutes, then I will wait to play that bonus content between Remso and between Sara Higdon, because I think today's bonus content is a little longer, about 7 minutes long. So it's 7:52 a.m. Central Time right here in Jefferson City, Missouri. So that would make it, we would go in overtime. She's saying what is needed. We're at $17 raised and we need to get to 75. Once we hit 75, that unlocks phase 1. Phase 2 will be that the former president of the United States, Joe Biden, will be joining us live on the show today. Apparently he is having some financial difficulties. My recommendation to you guys is that you go and one-shot the bonus content by signing up for my AI course, which has been hugely successful so far, teaching you how to use AI for creators. You can find it on the front page of the shop. It's $150 for the course. AI for Creators is available now. The course for podcasters, streamers, memers, anybody who wants commentators, influencers, anyone building a solo media empire. The memeing class that I gave yesterday probably was worth the entire $150 that you'd pay. And we have been having live sessions, which you can hop into, view the old live sessions if you'd like as well. So that would be my recommendation, is that you hit the Griff Shop and unlock the bonus content and get an AI course, how to use it to take over the internet at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. People are asking, is the judge going to be here today? I forgot. I should have told you that unfortunately the judge had a conflict this morning, so we won't be able to have him on the show today. But we do have Remso Martinez, who will be joining us live in about 6 minutes. So we're going to go to a break, and we will get Remso Martinez on Arctic Frost when we get back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Don't go away.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com. Next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, We've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Don't forget to click the like button, and if today is your first time watching our show, we hope you'll be a regular guest. Click the follow button. You will get a notification whenever we go live, which is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. If you click that follow button on Rumble, the Rumble notification will come in every morning when we're live, and we hope you guys will become a part of our community. We're building a whole Liberty Network. We call it the For Liberty Network, and if you go to forlibertynetwork.com, you'll find our Discord, you'll find all of our friends, and you'll be able to hang out whenever we're not live. All right, guys, the big story yesterday, Chuck Grassley revealed Operation Arctic Frost, and a good buddy of mine who we worked together during the Tea Party years might remember something similar when Lois Lerner's IRS under Barack Obama investigated the Tea Party groups that we were associated with. Joining us now, Remso Martinez from Marketer on the Run. Good morning, Remso. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Austin.
Remso, it's the same old story, it seems. Every time that the Democrats get in power, they weaponize the government against their political enemies. And if it seems to me that if we don't actually start to arrest some of our political opponents, that eventually you and I will end up in the can because of our political work. What do you make of Arctic Frost and the comparisons to the Tea Party era and how the Democrats operate in power versus how the Republicans operate when they're in power?
You know, Austin, it was only yesterday, it feels like it was really about, 14, 15 years ago when a good friend of mine, Becky Garrettson from the Wetumpka Tea Party out in Alabama, went before the House Oversight and Reform Committee and started talking about all the issues that they were having with the IRS. And at the time, Republicans had finally taken back control of the House of Representatives, but it was still the Obama years. And she was laughed at. She was ridiculed. She spoke for thousands of Tea Party groups across the country, and she was called a paranoid conspiracy theorist. And it wasn't until FreedomWorks really led the charge in pointing out that, hey, like what's going on right now is that the IRS is being used by the Obama administration in order to intimidate people, that it finally came out. Republicans finally showed what was going on within the IRS. But then the question started to loom even larger as to why a lot of these folks felt like they were being personally investigated when a lot of them were visited by the FBI for, many reasons. And the big reason was they wanted them to shut up. I am not disappointed with Kash Patel, but Kash Patel, even a year ago, said that if he were in a position where he can go ahead and turn the FBI into a museum about government corruption, he would do so. So, yeah, it's great that we can go ahead and see what we've all known this entire time, which is that the government was being used. I mean, we saw this with the DOJ that went ahead and said that parents were terrorists for attending school board meetings during the Biden era. It's good to know that everything we already knew was happening. But what's going to happen? Our enemies who actually actually broke the law, who weaponized government, who went after our fellow citizens, are not being punished, and these institutions are still there. When is the action going to start? I'm glad that Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino are getting to the bottom of this, but it's not good enough to know what we already knew.
Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA was one of the targeted groups, along with 96 other Republican groups. It's amazing they go after even the most peaceful of us, but it's about effectiveness, which is why I think that they assassinated Charlie Kirk, because it wasn't as if he wasn't a hateful person, right? It wasn't like they didn't assassinate Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens. They didn't assassinate any of the crazy fringe people in the movement. They didn't assassinate Tucker Carlson. They assassinated the person who has brought hundreds of thousands to potentially millions of young people to conservative ideas. Nobody thought that I didn't think that young people on college campuses could be brought over to the Republican side. And Charlie Kirk did it. I think that has to be part of the reason why there was so much hatred for him, is because he was actually attacking the left in the one place where people like us thought it was impossible. Would you agree with my analysis? Disagree? Something in between? Something to add?
I do agree with what you said. I mean, I'm skeptical to go ahead and say that, any they killed them other than the shooter right now. I don't believe the official narrative. I just typically don't believe the first story that's out there. I'm very skeptical of certain things, particularly the text exchange between the shooter and the shooter's boyfriend. So, I'm trying to not jump into the different avenues.
Skepticism on that, then.
Austin, I feel really weird about this because I don't know anyone in their 20s that writes like that. And that was the weird thing as I was reading this. I was reading out loud to my wife yesterday, and I was like, doesn't this sound like a script? Why is it that he's not admitting anything to the cops right now, but we have a Discord message that says that he was the one who, shot Charlie at UVU. And then we have this text exchange, which reads almost verbatim what you would want for an admission. And it's just something about it doesn't look right to me. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but I started seeing other people online say, this looks like a planted message. It doesn't make sense that the person who in the text exchange says that he wanted to carry this with him until he died of old age has said it in 2 electronic forms, but then refuses to say anything to the cops right now.
Well, you could understand why they wouldn't say it to the police if they would say it, but what they're saying to their online lover, his roommate. But he said it though in a way that could be found. I'm not entirely sold on what I'm saying. I'm just saying like that is the one thing that has like bothered me the last 24 hours. I just can't get it out of my head. Sure. Yeah, I understand. And I see a lot of people asking the same questions that you are. And at this point, I think it's wise to ask questions of pretty much anything. I do think that a lot of the Israel did it stuff is you could probably put that off to the side because there's the agenda of the people who that's all they ever talk about, which I just find fascinating in some ways and just bizarre in others. But in regards to this letter, my thinking is it's possible that it was planted in the sense that he probably set it up so that his trans lover could have plausible deniability. In some sense, that's what makes the most sense to me.
I could believe that. I could definitely believe that.
So what do we make of this, Remso? I mean, this is kind of shaking up our world. We live in the same world that Charlie Kirk did, right? We operate in the same circles, right? Our close mutual friend Cliff Maloney, he's definitely on a target list somewhere for the federal government. And at the moment, we're kind of iffy on Kash, Patel, and the FBI, especially.
Austin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh no, we lost Remso on that one. Womp womp. It was the Jews. Why would the Jews do this to us in our live stream? I blame Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll wait and see if we get Remso Martinez back. He'll probably back in just a minute. They got him. They got him. It was Netanyahu. Frickety says, don't give that killer dip pooper too much credit, though. People are sloppy. This isn't a movie script. Austin didn't pay his shekels, says LW78. I paid my Zoom subscription. To Bernard Goldstein, Jingleheimer Schmidt. Everything else lines up. The dad recognized his son and the gun and turned him in. Yeah, I think so. But we all know who's really behind this.
Belly right now. To those of you who think that you are going to replace Charlie Kirk, okay? Kings are born. You don't just get to depose and tell us that we're going to follow this individual, okay? I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA. You put a shill in Charlie Kirk's chair.
It's okay.
Everything just got really weird for a second on my end. I apologize.
Right. I was just playing some paranoid. Right. I said I was making jokes that it was the Jews that got us, Remso. So
yeah, I mean, it's I'm hearing that Israel did it because now there's this Owens conspiracy regarding Bill Ackman and the pressure that he started receiving after he hosted that debate with Dave Smith and the conversation with Tucker Carlson. We don't know what we don't know. And it doesn't help that we know nothing about the Trump shooter from over a year ago. We still know almost nothing about Matthew Crooks. So, I'm never one to believe the official narrative, but right now, it's that text exchange, as I mentioned. Yes, I completely agree with you. It could have been used as plausible deniability to make sure that the roommate knew nothing about it. But if we do know anything right now, it's that Tyler Robinson did not act in a vacuum. He was radicalized by these online transferee groups, whatever you want to call them. He had drifted from his family. He had become more radically left. People are going to say, oh, well, it wasn't coordinated. It wasn't just, him just doing this on his own. But, he was driven by this dangerous ideology that took a young man from the right and turned him to a person that thought the only way to silence Charlie Kirk was to murder him.
Well, here's the thing. There's more than just one person being investigated for this. This is Kash Patel speaking to Senator Josh Hawley at a hearing yesterday on this topic. Listen to this.
It's down to this investigation. Is the FBI investigating the Kirk assassination as part of this broader pattern of anti-religious, anti-Christian violence?
We are investigating Charlie's assassination fully and completely and running out every lead related to any allegation of broader violence. And we're producing results on that we'll disclose when appropriate.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me just ask you a few questions about that, if I could.
Sure.
Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that? Following up what you already said in public, how's the FBI working to find other potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him? Any update on any of that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement. And we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat. And for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we're doing, we've already done, is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use.
There are people, Remso, who may have had advanced knowledge potentially of this assassination that may have been in that forum. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. They had been, scheduling protests throughout Utah over the course of the last year. You definitely see that there was some hateful language that was directed towards Charlie Kirk. Obviously, he was not operating in a vacuum. He had to have gotten familiar with these individuals. He had to go ahead and put himself in an environment in which he would think that this would be acceptable and this would be supported. Take it or leave it, but Candace Owens says that she went ahead and spoke to the family of Lance Twiggs, who is the boyfriend / roommate of Tyler Robinson. And, according to Candace Owens, which I said, take it how you will with her. She said that, while the media is trying to paint Twiggs as a cooperative, soft-hearted person, the family who she allegedly spoke to went ahead and said that that is not the case, that Twiggs became openly hostile. He showed up to a recent holiday on drugs and was talking politics to the family in a, very uncomfortable way. And that, this has been something that had been, drifting towards just total isolationism for a while. They described Twiggs as somebody who was deeply, deeply involved in, online gaming and these far leftist forums. So there's what you're getting from the media, which is, oh, this is just isolated, nobody's involved. But the more that comes out from the FBI shows that this didn't happen in a vacuum. And that, now there's another boyfriend apparently also being called out by Robinson. There's another boyfriend allegedly of Robinson's who's another member of the furry community, whatever you call it, who they're also saying is a far leftist. That, I saw last night, it was another part of the Candace Owens thread that came through her live stream yesterday. But, everything that comes out is coming out at the point where it's like every time the media wants to say this was isolated, this didn't happen, this is not the situation, the contrary ends up coming out. And somebody else knew. Somebody else knew. I want to know who was engraving the bullets. In the text message exchange, Robinson doesn't claim that he was directly engraving the bullets himself. I want to know who was engraving the bullets. Was it the father? Was it somebody else? Obviously, we know that he stole the rifle from his grandfather, which is one of the reasons why, Robinson's father knew that something was amok, because the father and the grandfather were both looking for the missing rifle, which Robinson had wrapped in the towel nearby the building, which the FBI discovered that afternoon. It's very clear that Robinson, while he was himself the shooter, this is showing the workings of a grand conspiracy.
Remso, this morning, Alex Narasta from the Cato Institute is desperately trying to convince me that out of the analysis of murders by political ideology since 1975, excluding 9/11, that the right has committed far more political murders, again, excluding 9/11, than the left. Alex Narasta publishing his works, his source is the ADL, and it shows the right committing 391 political murders versus the left only 65 since 1975. Then I have this congressman from Texas who says things like this. Take a listen.
24% of people who identify as very liberal think that political violence is acceptable. That number is only 3% for conservatives. That's not an American problem. That's a left-wing problem. Yes, everybody should be able to condemn political violence. On the left and the right, I certainly do. But this...
Remso, what are we supposed to believe? The Cato Institute and their statistics from the ADL? Our lying eyes. Who do you believe? What do you believe in terms of violence, left versus right?
Well, the Cato Institute told me that the BLM riots were mostly peaceful and that I should have taken the jab. And last I checked, they were the ones that had to board their windows because the same peaceful protesters were, throwing bricks through the windows at their DC headquarters. So I haven't taken what the Cato Institute has had to say, with much thought in many years. In terms of the ADL, I put them in the same category as the SPLC. The SPLC went ahead and said that Turning Point USA was a hate group and that Charlie Kirk was a white supremacist and a hate monger. So obviously, I'm not going to trust the people that are constantly praying for our downfall and destruction when we just want our basic right to live with our constitutionally amended civil rights. So, yeah, I really don't care about what they say. In terms of violence, I've seen many people go ahead and bring up the fact that there was There was a state senator in Minnesota. Her and her husband and her dog were murdered. I do remember that. That was a horrible situation. The media's and other people have been trying to paint it as a Republican assassination, but the man was a Democrat. The man was a appointed Democrat who, in his statements to the FBI, said that Tim Walz wanted him to go ahead and assassinate that woman. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying that what that man says is true, but that man was certainly not a Republican. Michael Knowles was on his show yesterday, and he mentioned the fact that, this isn't something that just happened yesterday. When Michael Knowles was attending campus tours, prior to 2020, I don't know if you remember, but there was the pipe bomb incident at one campus he attended. He was safe. The attendees were safe, but a police officer, a female officer, was very much injured from a pipe bomb created by an Antifa terrorist. I remember all the campus fires. I remember all the people, putting rocks in socks and bringing pipes and causing just absolute anarchy throughout the country. And then I don't need to say any more than the Summer of Love and the fact that, 2 people tried to kill Donald Trump within the past year. So, I think that people are not going to buy this because we see what's happening. We see what has happened. We've seen what's happened throughout the country. You don't even have to look any further than what occurred to Rand Paul twice when you look at the congressional baseball shooting in 2018, and then when he was attacked by his neighbor in 2019, 2020. People don't remember this, but Rand Paul pierced a lung. Rand Paul broke several ribs and pierced a lung. He's been permanently injured since that occurred, and he could have died from that. And what you had was at the time, leftist commentators saying that I wish Rand Paul's attacker a quick recovery. They laughed at Rand Paul. They celebrated the attacker. And you've been saying this more than anyone else I know, Austin, which is that the Luigi Mangiones of the world are being celebrated right now. We saw what happened yesterday in New York when the terroristic threat charges were dropped. He still has about 9 other charges going against him. But just because he got that dropped, you had people celebrating in the streets. I mean, what does it say when we live in a society where people are celebrating open murder? Celebrating open murder. It's not going to end of Charlie Kirk. These people are going to continue to do it whenever one of them kills one of us. That's just the sad state of the world right now.
Remso, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience, or anything that you think that we missed, or perhaps you'd like to plug something before we let you go, brother? My friend Jimmy Joe Patty over there at got a job at campaignjobsnow.com. He's in Bucks County, PA right now, listening to the show, and I'm really proud of him. So campaignjobsnow.com/apply for anyone who wants a job. But is there anything else that we might have missed?
No, I want to double down on that. campaignjobsnow.com/apply. The mission doesn't end. The mission doesn't end. The moment we give the left an ounce, they're going to just go ahead and take a mile. And Charlie wouldn't want that from anybody. So if you're looking to get involved in this fight directly, if you want to make sure that at least in Pennsylvania, we can go ahead and form a red wall, build that permanent infrastructure, and make sure that Democrats can never win another national election again. So that way they can't come back and take the FBI and start, kicking down our doors. campaignjobsnow.com/apply is the way to get in the fight today.
There we go.
Thank
Remso
you, Austin.
Martinez, campaignjobsnow.com/apply. Be like our buddy Jimmy Joe Patty over there in the chat, knocking doors in Bucks County, PA today. That could be you tomorrow. Thank you, Remso, for all you do for us, for your liberty. And thanks for being so generous with your time. Have a good one.
Thank you, Austin. Bye.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect.
Very touching, very intimate. Very fake and gay. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, guys. We've unlocked the phase 1 of the bonus content. They call me Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat. When I play my maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. He's a real modest guy, even though he's the hottest guy in Havana, in Havana. All right, senoritas, we've unlocked phase 1 of the bonus content. We've raised $80 out of the $100 goal. That means that you get the bonus content now. Sara Higdon, post-op transsexual, not transgender, transsexual activist Sara Higdon joins us for her thoughts on that when we get back. It's the Wake Up America Show. Enjoy the bonus content. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America Shows for Liberty Network.
Anti-alcohol lobbyists have accused the Trump administration of burying a new government-funded report that draws a link between drinking and cancer and warned that Americans will be harmed as a result. But that's a claim made in an article published by Vox earlier this month that leans on several half-truths, as well as an inaccurate characterization of the underlying report and how it came to be. As reason detailed in a cover story earlier this year, the very existence of that report was the result of a flawed and biased process. It is not that the Trump administration is trying to silence important findings or keep essential health data from the public. Rather, the administration seems to be correctly skeptical of this study and its author's attempt to influence the drafting of the new dietary guidelines set to be published later this year. Let's begin with the claims of public health malfeasance. In the article by Vox reporter Dylan Scott, the White House is accused of working against the best interest of public health by refusing to publish the final version of the alcohol intake and health study that was commissioned by the Biden administration in 2022. Keeping the report under wraps will allegedly keep Americans in the dark about the link between drinking and cancer, and people are going to get sick who might have avoided getting sick because they might have decreased their drinking. Priscilla Martinez, Deputy Scientific Director of the Alcohol Research Group at the Public Health Institute, tells Scott, "If Americans are curious about the link between alcohol and cancer, there are many readily available resources for them to consult. In fact, the very nutritional guidelines that Martinez and her co-authors hope to influence as they are updated this year have made that link since the very first edition in 1980. Cancer of the throat and neck is much more common in people who drink and smoke than in people who don't, is how that report put it." The most recent version of the dietary guidelines, published in 2020, includes this warning. Emerging evidence suggests that even drinking within the recommended limits may increase the overall risk of death from various causes, such as from several types of cancer. Indeed, curious Americans could even read the draft report of the alcohol intake and health study, which was submitted to the Department of Health and Human Services in January and is readily available online. Or they could read that very Vox piece, or a recent article in the New York Times, that summarizes the report's findings. It is a bit bizarre for the report's co-authors to claim they have been silenced when their claims are being printed in such widely read publications, certainly more widely read than a government report would be. In light of all that, it is simply laughable to claim that the Trump administration is somehow preventing Americans from learning about the cancer risk that comes from drinking alcohol. The next question that should be asked, but that the Vox article fails to engage, is why these anti-drinking activists would try to frame the matter in those terms. To answer that, you must know a few facts that are glossed over by Vox. Scott helpfully explains that his sources for the article are 3 of the 6 members of the committee that drafted the alcohol intake and health study, including Martinez. What he fails to explain is that none of the authors are dietitians or nutritionists, the types of scientists you'd expect to draft a report intended to guide the writing of the nutritional guidelines. All 6 are experts in other fields, and all 6 have an extensive track record of warning about the risks of alcohol. As I wrote in the May issue of Reason, there is nothing wrong with including these perspectives, of course. But when that perspective is the only perspective included in an official report, it becomes more than fair to question its validity. Those questions become even more valid when you realize that the Biden administration set up this 6-member committee under the auspices of the Interagency Coordinating Committee on the Prevention of Underage Drinking, ICCPUD, a federal entity created in 2004 to coordinate all federal agency activities related to the problem of underage drinking. The dietary guidelines have nothing to do with underage drinking. The recommended amount of alcohol consumption for Americans under age 21 is 0. Scott notes that the 6 researchers behind the report submitted conflict of interest paperwork ahead of joining the project. But this, too, is misleading. Acknowledging a conflict of interest is meaningless if you don't take steps to address it. Again, as I explained in that May cover story, conflicts of interest in studies overseen by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, NASEM, for example, would typically be resolved by removing certain individuals, or by ensuring that an individual with the counter viewpoint serves on the committee as well. The ICC-PUD committee that produced this report at the request of the Biden administration operated with no such requirements and seems to have stacked the deck with anti-alcohol voices and no one else. All of this crucial context is missing from the Vox article, which mostly uncritically repeats the claims being made by Martinez and the other activists who are now frustrated that their attempt to influence the government's dietary guidelines has been thwarted. One final thing worth noting. One of the few quotes in the Vox article that does not come from a co-author of the supposedly buried report is attributed to Mike Marshall, CEO of the Alcohol Policy Alliance, which advocates for policies to reduce drinking. Marshall blames the alcohol industry for the Trump administration's decision not to publish the final version of the report. Like the tobacco industry, like the opioid industry, they are working hard to prevent the American people from gaining the knowledge that they need to make the best decisions for themselves, he told Vox. The alcohol industry is obviously a self-interested party in all of this. However, Marshall appears to be the one pulling the strings on this misleading media campaign. In an email to supporters of the Alcohol Policy Alliance in August, Marshall bragged about how the organization was preparing national journalists for the October release of the dietary guidelines and reframing coverage of the debate over drinking. That seems to be the exact goal of the Vox article, which succeeds at reframing the debate by leaving out context and inconvenient facts, like the fact that the project director for the ICC-PUD report was Alicia Sparks, a former chairwoman for the Alcohol Policy Alliance. That seems pretty relevant, no? But there was apparently no space to inform readers of that fact, alongside Marshall's accusation that his policy opponents are engaged in shady behavior. Given all the conflicts of interest and obvious bias in the ICC-PUD report, it makes perfect sense that the Trump administration would sideline it as the new dietary guidelines are drawn up. Whether the final report is ever published or not, the unavoidable conclusion here is that it is the anti-alcohol activists themselves who have largely discredited their own efforts.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
It was yes, classic love story. Man falls in love with a man in a dress, commits a political assassination, and then sends the man in the dress there loving letters about their political assassination. Tale as old as time. All right, folks, this next conversation is important. It's personal. We talk a lot about politics, but of course, behind these headlines and these jokes, right, are real friendships and real courage. Our next guest is Sara Higdon. She's a trans activist. She's post-op. She was befriended by Charlie Kirk. Charlie believed in hearing voices across the aisle, in building bridges, even when it was unpopular. Sara is living proof of that, joining us live here now on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Sara. Welcome to the show.
Morning. Thanks for having me, as always.
First off, just your reaction to that clip of the reporter talking about how touching the texts were between these two lovers.
It's gross. It really is just gross. And this is kind of what we've seen happening with people on the left, right? This is the glorification, I don't know, I guess the humanization. They want to make these people out to be like not something that they are, which is evil. I mean, we saw this with Luigi Mangione. It's the same example. It's like, oh, this person, they have this this amazing backstory, or they're so compassionate to these other people. It's gross trying to almost make it seem like they aren't these evil creatures that they are.
Sara, what was your reaction to the death of Charlie Kirk last week?
I will tell you, I was heartbroken. I'm still heartbroken. I feel, Charlie wasn't he wasn't a politician. He wasn't anything. He was just like us, just bigger. He was somebody who does content creation for a living. I truly believe that he was somebody who lived his faith, and there's not a lot of even Christians out there that I would say that about, because even though he would disagree with somebody like me, and now I never met Charlie myself, but I did work at Human Events, where he was a senior contributor, and I've been to Turning Point events with press passes and stuff like that. But the thing is you could disagree with Charlie, and he would still let you in his home. And I do believe that that is living in accordance with your faith, right? Jesus would sit down with people he disagreed with and tell them straight that he disagreed with the way that they were living their lives, but would still love them anyways. I truly believe that that's who Charlie Kirk was. And it's sad, because I do think that this is, an MLK moment where the person that's out there that knows that once conversations stop, violence begins, and they live their lives to stop violence and to be nonviolent. It's really, it was heartbreaking, and it's really sad to see a lot of people glorifying this. And this is one thing that I will not tolerate, even in my personal life. I will cut people if you are celebrating evil, as a lot of these people did.
Sara, what went through your mind when you learned that the assassin not only had a trans partner, but confessed to them in texts within hours of the murder?
It's been kind of confusing with the trans partner, because initially all the reports said that the person sent the FBI text that helped nab the person. And so it was really confusing to me whether that person actually reported their partner before the police picked him up or not. It seems like it's not. But I will say we're in a culture right now where it's sad to say, I'm just kind of like, if it is a trans person that creates these acts of violence, it's like, not again. Here comes all the hate coming my way. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we had that school shooting, and it was trans people should be locked in cages. We shouldn't be allowed to have our own rights, and we shouldn't be able to live free. And so the backlash is something that I dread when I hear these things. And I shouldn't have to, worry about who it is that's committing these evil acts of violence.
Do you think that parts of the modern trans activist movement have become more radical and maybe even more dangerous in recent years, Sara?
100%. I mean, Andy No has reported a lot on this, and the problem is that I wrote an op-ed in Human Events 2 years ago, and explaining how the left has co-opted the T in the community to make it transgender and to enact this. And, Antifa has been rebranded as Trantifa because they have self-ID'd into this ID to push their critical theory, which is queer theory. And that is their violent ways. It didn't work in 2020, and so because it needed the Black community to be able to push the violence, and this they can just self-ID, and it's quite evident when you see just a month or so ago there was a report that came out that showed only 32.7% of the trans community identifies as trans women, 34% identify as trans men, and 33.5% identify as non-binary, which shouldn't even be in the same category anyways, which shows me that there's so many people that are not doing anything. They're self-IDing into this, and they are considered part of the trans community, and they are pushing this, again, violent agenda through critical theory onto society. So yeah, I absolutely think that the activist movement is doing this, and at the end of the day, what's going to happen is all the acceptance for trans people is going to go out the window, and it's going to be us left holding the bag who are actually, dysphoric and took the steps to live our lives the way that we see fit and authentically.
Sara, what do you wish that conservatives understood better about the trans community, especially in moments like this?
That we are not all like this, that actually those that are dysphoric are fairly rare in the community. And there are a lot of us out there who are not public people. The people that you see public are the worst of offenders, as with most things on social media. Social media amplifies the worst actors in any community because that's what gets the clicks and views.
Yes, correct.
Most trans people probably not even online and are mostly just living their lives, and you probably wouldn't even know, or they're mostly non-violent, peaceful people, because for the most part, through history, trans people have feared violence against them, and now it seems like there's this community surrounding them pushing the violence because almost as a retribution for what has taken place in the past. And that's not accurate for, I think, most of the trans community of itself. I think most, like the LGBT is mostly made up of normal gays, and then you have the queer community which is completely separate and feeds off of queer theory.
Can you explain that in a little bit more detail, Sarah, for people who aren't really familiar with the gender mafia?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, like the whole non-binary thing is rooted. The idea that there can even be non-binary is rooted in queer theory, which is postmodern neo-Marxism. It's a critical theory. It's like critical race theory. Sex. They would say sex is a social construct, and so if you think sex is a social construct, then it's not a binary, and so that you can identify into anything. Whereas like transsexuals, the classic transsexuals, so they changed it from transsexual to transgender to be able to push this ideology in the 2010s about. And so the classic transsexual, you'd have to have gender dysphoria. You live within the binary, and you would you have an uncomfortability between your primary and secondary sex characteristics to where you feel like you want to live as the opposite sex. It doesn't mean you can change your sex. It doesn't mean that you can. It just means that you are doing extreme body modification to make yourself feel more comfortable and live into society and blend into society. And that's part of the problem, is nobody's even trying to blend into society. They're using this, postmodernism to almost encapsulate what it means to be trans. And it's actually the reason, and now I will tell you, like, that the term gender, so gender is now a meaningless term in my view. I don't like to use gender terms. I use sex-based terms. I'm a male, and that's all that really matters. I might be a trans. And actually, I don't even use the word trans to define myself anymore, because I labeled it post-trans because I'm just living my life as I see fit in the way that, and you can't change your sex, and I will always be a male. So I'm done arguing about those terms, and I'm actually wanting to just live my life in a way that I see fit. And I think that's the way that most transsexuals in this life are.
Sarah, we appreciate your courage coming in here and saying things like this on this kind of a show, and we've had you on this show before, but I think this country is sort of at an inflection point right now where there's I think danger of even more violence perhaps being reflected back into the communities where these are coming from. If you were advising President Donald Trump or Kash Patel, the FBI, if you were advising them on how to deal with this situation that we're faced with right now, what would you advise them to do? What would you say to them to help them either better understand this or to take better action in order to protect the American people and to prevent something like this from happening again? What would you advise the administration to do?
Well, I think, not what they've been doing. They've gone to going into hate speech, to talking about hate speech and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. That's not going to do anything. But yeah, watching for incitement, enforcing the laws that are on the books. I would say, one of the things that we saw even with the school shooting, and they want to take guns away from trans people. That's not going to do anything, because criminals will always get their hands on weapons. But more guns are better. So we need to arm our schools. We need to, eliminate gun-free zones. We need to have better security events. I mean, it's shocking to me that there was nobody on a rooftop and they had Charlie Kirk. None of his security was like, hey, you probably shouldn't be, in the low ground in this area with nobody with high security. Foreign military, that would be the first thing that you would look at, was the top of the roofs. And I think, if I'm Donald Trump, Donald Trump has a great trans advisor in Caitlyn Jenner. And so I don't know what they've been talking about, but listen to the people that you know in these communities that that can, you know, better assist you. Andy No has a great pulse on what's going on in the violent groups of these. You know, watch these people, see what's going on, watch their online posts, get into their you know, their Discord servers, see what's going on and understand where the rhetoric is coming from. And then, you know, watch for that. And I do believe that that's kind of what they've insinuated that they're going to start doing. I mean, the whole hate speech stuff, they were talking about more inciting of violence and stuff and like that. But I think what they're doing right now, looking at maybe RICO charges against some of these co-conspirators, see who knew what when. Even if this, it doesn't seem like this trans lover knew what was going on, at least from the text messages. But who, you know, who knew what when and what's in those servers and who's connected. Now there's the, it's really interesting. They're looking at with this Armed Queers or something organization out of Utah, which is, this person was too radical for the Pink Pistols organization and split off and made their own organization because they were, you know, radicalized and you know, threatening violence. And that's not what, like, the Pink Pistols organization, which is a gay armed, right, you know, gay armed gays group, which has more libertarian leaning. So they were too radical for that. So look at some of these groups, look at some of these ties that are in some of these groups. And like I said, when you see, you know, violent protests on the streets, when violence erupts with these Antifa groups, you know, prosecute. That's part of the issue is a lot of these leftist cities are not prosecuting crime. I mean, even just look at, you know, last weekend we had the subway stabbing where that person had been let out 14 times. It's not just a trans issue; it's a leftist city issue.
I completely agree. Last question here for you, Sarah, before we let you go, and you've been so generous with your time. We appreciate you. Last question here for you is: what do you think Charlie would want? How do you think he would want his supporters to respond politically, culturally, and personally in the wake of his assassination? Of course, being assassinated in theory might change your mind about things, but he's not here to tell us. Knowing what you know about him, how do you think he would want his supporters to respond to this?
I think what his wife Erica said so strongly after his death is that he would want his mission to go on. He actually had said in an interview before that, you know, what would you want to be remembered for? It would be living within his faith. I think he would want this, his mission of nonviolence and open conversation and trying to understand each other and through civil debate. I think that he would want that to push forward. Especially, I mean, I've seen people starting to say, you know, we tried to be civil and have these debates and they shot him. But the idea is that, I mentioned Martin Luther King earlier, but when you look through history, the people who are the most effective, I mean, Jesus himself, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, these people were nonviolent, they were nonviolent, peaceful people who wanted to have conversations with people. And they weren't killed because it was ineffective. They were killed because that nonviolence is effective at changing people's hearts and minds. I think that that's what Charlie would continue to push forward.
Completely agree. Sarah, is there anything else on this topic or perhaps anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we let you go today?
No, I mean, I think right now we are at a turning point, literally, where we need to hold the line, have these conversations. You know, I'm more than willing to get out there and have these conversations with people that may disagree with me. I think that's one of the more, I'm so saddened because there was a part of me with how many mutual friends that me and Charlie had that wish that me and him could have had some conversations, because I do think that even with some of the stuff that he put out there, I think there are some ignorance about what is going on and what trans people are experiencing inside themselves and what gender dysphoria is. And so I just seek to hope to have the conversations with people that really seek to understand what actual trans people are going through, not what this violent rhetoric is. So yeah, I would love to see just pray for the country and see, where we can go from here. And hopefully it doesn't go deeper into more violence.
Sara, where can people find out more about your work online?
Yeah, you can go on my website, sarahhigdon.com. You can go to on X and on Instagram, it's Sara Higdon _, and on YouTube, it's Sara Higdon.
There we go, Sara Higdon. Sara, we appreciate you for your courage in speaking out and your generosity with your time and joining us this morning. We hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Oh my God, he's drowning. Holy shit. Oh, he fucking drowned. Holy shit. So apparently this guy had a knife at the park. People started freaking out. He jumped over the thing into the water, couldn't swim, and drowned. Apparently he stabbed multiple people, from what I'm hearing.
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. The Darwin Award to him. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Looks like we're making it to the end of the show today, but womp womp. We did not unlock the bonus content phase 2. You did unlock phase 1, and I thank you. Appreciate your guys' financial generosity. I will never complain because you guys have always been so generous with us. However, we are $15 away from the $100 goal, which means that we unfortunately will not be able to see Joe Biden on the show today. So don't freak out, guys. I'm sorry. But that means that we won't get to see Joe Biden on the Wake Up America show today. It has been a great show today, and I've been grateful for everything that you guys have done for us in the last week. Real quick, one last story. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and other prominent political figures are going to speak this Sunday at a stadium event honoring Charlie Kirk. It's going to happen at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. They're going to have a service for Kirk. They've got a seating capacity of about 63,000 people there. Several friends have reached out to me asking if I'm going to be there. Unfortunately, I have way too many obligations here at home. Got to take care of wife and baby. And I would love to be there. I do also want to caution people who are going. You should be courageous, and we should go. We shouldn't stop doing the things that we need to do. However, I do want to remind people that the tensions are at a fever pitch right now. So I certainly hope that the security situation there is going to be well handled, well maintained, and well taken care of. Thank you to everyone who has been a huge supporter of the Wake Up America show. Thank you to Drew Van Runkle for purchasing that sub. We had some friends go to the Grift Shop this morning. Other people were making donations. We appreciate all that you guys have done for us. Sorry we didn't have Judge Andrew Napolitano. He will be back on with us next week. He just had a conflict. Tomorrow's Thursday, which means we will have Camellia Peterson on the show today. I've got a couple of special guests, hopefully, that are in the queue for tomorrow and for Friday. We'll see if they work out. But as you can see, I'm doing everything I can to try and bring you the absolute best guests, the most relevant guests. And I hope that you guys will hang out with us on the Discord channel when we're not live. So if you want to hang out whenever we're not live, then visit forlibertynetwork.com. That's the number 4, libertynetwork.com. That's the whole network. And we also have a Grift Shop, as we call it, that we say exit through the Grift Shop on your way out. Visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Any of the purchases of our Charlie Kirk related merchandise for the Grift Shop will be sent the profits will be sent to Turning Point USA. So we've got some great new products. We're dropping brand new stuff every single day. Literally during the show, we just dropped a new Proud Pineapple t-shirt. So check that one out. DeGuard, Chicago Bears. We Are Charlie shirts. Spooky season, Halloween pineapples. We Are Charlie shirts and Viva El Charlie t-shirts. We're going to have an absolute blast sending money to Turning Point USA in the next few days through your purchases. So thanks for all you do. And we'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
Anti-alcohol lobbyists have accused the Trump administration of burying a new government-funded report that draws a link between drinking and cancer and warned that Americans will be harmed as a result. But that's a claim made in an article published by Vox earlier this month that leans on several half-truths, as well as an inaccurate characterization of the underlying report and how it came to be. As reason detailed in a cover story earlier this year, the very existence of that report was the result of a flawed and biased process. It is not that the Trump administration is trying to silence important findings or keep essential health data from the public. Rather, the administration seems to be correctly skeptical of this study and its author's attempt to influence the drafting of the new dietary guidelines set to be published later this year. Let's begin with the claims of public health malfeasance. In the article by Vox reporter Dylan Scott, the White House is accused of working against the best interest of public health by refusing to publish the final version of the alcohol intake and health study that was commissioned by the Biden administration in 2022. Keeping the report under wraps will allegedly keep Americans in the dark about the link between drinking and cancer, and people are going to get sick who might have avoided getting sick because they might have decreased their drinking. Priscilla Martinez, Deputy Scientific Director of the Alcohol Research Group at the Public Health Institute, tells Scott, "If Americans are curious about the link between alcohol and cancer, there are many readily available resources for them to consult. In fact, the very nutritional guidelines that Martinez and her co-authors hope to influence as they are updated this year have made that link since the very first edition in 1980. Cancer of the throat and neck is much more common in people who drink and smoke than in people who don't, is how that report put it." The most recent version of the dietary guidelines, published in 2020, includes this warning. Emerging evidence suggests that even drinking within the recommended limits may increase the overall risk of death from various causes, such as from several types of cancer. Indeed, curious Americans could even read the draft report of the alcohol intake and health study, which was submitted to the Department of Health and Human Services in January and is readily available online. Or they could read that very Vox piece, or a recent article in the New York Times, that summarizes the report's findings. It is a bit bizarre for the report's co-authors to claim they have been silenced when their claims are being printed in such widely read publications, certainly more widely read than a government report would be. In light of all that, it is simply laughable to claim that the Trump administration is somehow preventing Americans from learning about the cancer risk that comes from drinking alcohol. The next question that should be asked, but that the Vox article fails to engage, is why these anti-drinking activists would try to frame the matter in those terms. To answer that, you must know a few facts that are glossed over by Vox. Scott helpfully explains that his sources for the article are 3 of the 6 members of the committee that drafted the alcohol intake and health study, including Martinez. What he fails to explain is that none of the authors are dietitians or nutritionists, the types of scientists you'd expect to draft a report intended to guide the writing of the nutritional guidelines. All 6 are experts in other fields, and all 6 have an extensive track record of warning about the risks of alcohol. As I wrote in the May issue of Reason, there is nothing wrong with including these perspectives, of course. But when that perspective is the only perspective included in an official report, it becomes more than fair to question its validity. Those questions become even more valid when you realize that the Biden administration set up this 6-member committee under the auspices of the Interagency Coordinating Committee on the Prevention of Underage Drinking, ICCPUD, a federal entity created in 2004 to coordinate all federal agency activities related to the problem of underage drinking. The dietary guidelines have nothing to do with underage drinking. The recommended amount of alcohol consumption for Americans under age 21 is 0. Scott notes that the 6 researchers behind the report submitted conflict of interest paperwork ahead of joining the project. But this, too, is misleading. Acknowledging a conflict of interest is meaningless if you don't take steps to address it. Again, as I explained in that May cover story, conflicts of interest in studies overseen by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, NASEM, for example, would typically be resolved by removing certain individuals, or by ensuring that an individual with the counter viewpoint serves on the committee as well. The ICC-PUD committee that produced this report at the request of the Biden administration operated with no such requirements and seems to have stacked the deck with anti-alcohol voices and no one else. All of this crucial context is missing from the Vox article, which mostly uncritically repeats the claims being made by Martinez and the other activists who are now frustrated that their attempt to influence the government's dietary guidelines has been thwarted. One final thing worth noting. One of the few quotes in the Vox article that does not come from a co-author of the supposedly buried report is attributed to Mike Marshall, CEO of the Alcohol Policy Alliance, which advocates for policies to reduce drinking. Marshall blames the alcohol industry for the Trump administration's decision not to publish the final version of the report. Like the tobacco industry, like the opioid industry, they are working hard to prevent the American people from gaining the knowledge that they need to make the best decisions for themselves, he told Vox. The alcohol industry is obviously a self-interested party in all of this. However, Marshall appears to be the one pulling the strings on this misleading media campaign. In an email to supporters of the Alcohol Policy Alliance in August, Marshall bragged about how the organization was preparing national journalists for the October release of the dietary guidelines and reframing coverage of the debate over drinking. That seems to be the exact goal of the Vox article, which succeeds at reframing the debate by leaving out context and inconvenient facts, like the fact that the project director for the ICC-PUD report was Alicia Sparks, a former chairwoman for the Alcohol Policy Alliance. That seems pretty relevant, no? But there was apparently no space to inform readers of that fact, alongside Marshall's accusation that his policy opponents are engaged in shady behavior. Given all the conflicts of interest and obvious bias in the ICC-PUD report, it makes perfect sense that the Trump administration would sideline it as the new dietary guidelines are drawn up. Whether the final report is ever published or not, the unavoidable conclusion here is that it is the anti-alcohol activists themselves who have largely discredited their own efforts.